Hi, this is Editor's Take. I'm Sakshi Batra and with me is Gaurav Chaudhary and he's the Deputy Executive Editor of Moneycontrol. And to mark the second anniversary of GST, we are going to be discussing the past, present and what lies on the road ahead to GST now. Thanks a lot, Gaurav, for joining in. Now, today we've already seen Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman tweet, and I quote, she has said that we are committed to greater simplification of the process. Even former Finance Minister Arun Jaitley has written a blog on the 2 years of GST, and he says GST proved to be both consumer and assessee friendly. 2 years on, Gaurav, do you think GST has made taxation more transparent and evading taxes more difficult and probably also increased the tax base?
Yes, on the last point first, clearly it has increased the tax base considerably compared to say 2017. Before July 1, 2017 and now the tax base has increased considerably. So one of the most tangible, obvious successes of BJP has been to organize the Indian economy to the extent possible, and this is something that is going to progress even further as in the months and years ahead. That is one part of it. The second part of it is GST attempted to bring together, establish a common national market by bringing down fiscal barriers among states. So before GST, before July 1, 2017, each state functioned as an independent market.
Yes.
But there were different sets of taxes, different sets of levies for different kinds of products, and entering goods from one state to another state also attracted taxes in many states. So it was as if we were functioning in 30 odd different markets.
Yes.
That has come down considerably. There are no long line of trucks and lorries on state borders that you see now, because it has smoothened down, and also because of various things have moved through an electronic system. So that has happened, and that is again another success. One of the biggest success, however, has been that prior to the rollout of GST, there was a fear that GST will be inflationary, so it's going to raise prices. That hasn't happened, and prices have remained firmly under control, despite the fact that maybe the headline GST rate has gone up in many goods and services compared to what it was before, whether it was the national, whether it was the state VAT or the service tax. Despite that, the prices of most goods and services have remained more or less unchanged because of a new tax system. So, considering the fact that GST was an attempt to replace an extremely inefficient indirect tax system with a set of levies, I would call it a success, but yes, it's a work in progress. There are many rough edges that need to be ironed out.
Right, so we are going to be talking about the work in progress. Now, clearly a lot of teething troubles and the initial issues have been sorted out. I want to understand what are the current challenges that still persist and the government needs to focus on.
One of the challenges, the procedural and return filing continues to remain a challenge.
Yeah.
There are systems that are not as efficient as every tax assessor would like it to be.
Okay.
That is something I would assume that the GST Council, the government and the centre and the state governments are fully aware of, and are working towards it to sorting out these issues. The other big challenge is the tax refund.
Yeah.
Now we have seen in last year, in the first year and the second and the beginning of the second year of GST, we have seen that exporters complaining about long delays in refunds.
Yeah.
And that is something that's a real problem for businesses. You cannot have businesses functioning if your refunds are delayed by say up to 18 months.
Yeah.
And that it affects the normal functioning of a company, it affects the future business plans, and clearly it affects the cash flow. So the council will have to find out a system through which refunds are more immediate and doesn't affect normal functioning of businesses. Otherwise, the very purpose of replacing the previous indirect tax system, it was an ugly patchwork, and there is no disputing that.
Yeah.
But replacing that with a system that results in very long delays for tax assessors, who are traders, who are forced to wait for several months to get refunds, affects the cash flow, affects the normal business operations. That can have consequences across a broad spectrum of the economy. The other problem is also about the GST network, the IT backbone, the GST-IN. That is something that probably there was one big criticism when GST rolled out, and shortly after that was that the IT backbone probably was not as fully prepared
Yes.
as it should have been, given the kind of changes that it had to handle. That is again, as I said, a work in progress. Many things have been ironed out, but probably a few things remain which the GST Council and the GSTI and officials are working towards.
Absolutely. So certain challenges still remain to be conquered, but right now what's next? The CI has already called for GST 2.0. They have said that we need further rationalization of the taxes, simplification of the registration process, just like how you mentioned, and ease of doing business, which is the need of the hour.
Yeah,
Would you
so,
agree?
yeah, I agree with a couple of these things, especially in so far as simplification of procedures is concerned. That is something on which the finance minister herself has said today, that GST simplification is a work in progress, and that remains the government's and the council's top priority. That is something that will continue. I think the focus will remain on that, but I would be more keen in observing to what extent that the government actually brings down the existing, the peak income, peak GST rate on the existing items.
Yeah.
So about 25 odd items, close to 25 items actually attract the peak GST rate of 28%. I would be keen on seeing how this is pruned further and how rapidly. I would assume that a product like say, cement, which is an intermediate product and has a lot of multiplier benefits as it is related to various sectors like real estate and construction, would attract a lower tax GST rate, and probably the council is considering that, or maybe have even discussed it. We have seen lobbying by the cement industry in the sense that they have been trying to argue that it deserves the lower GST rate. That hasn't happened yet, but I would expect the GST rate on cement would probably come down sooner than many people expect. That is one. I would also be keen on knowing when government, the GST Council agrees on moving petrol and diesel under GST.
Yes.
Petroleum products remains under GST, but it's within the GST Council's decision-making authority to bring these products under GST. As of now, the GST Council has avoided taking a decision, but I would assume that it will be a staggered introduction of petroleum products into the GST ambit. Probably ATF, aviation turbine fuel, and natural gas will be the first two products that will be brought under GST, followed by petrol and diesel. But that's still some distance away, because petrol and diesel, as we know, are also function as milch cows for many state governments, because they yield a lot of revenue, and many state governments may not be feeling confident to forego that power to impose taxes on petrol and diesel, because if they think that it's going to rob them of our fiscal powers to garner additional revenue, that could delay the process of bringing petrol and diesel. But I would assume that natural gas and ATF may be the first two petroleum products to come under GST.
Right. Thanks a lot, then, Gaurav, for sharing all that insight with us. Well, the teething troubles may be behind us. Still, some challenges remain, and we will have to wait and watch to find out how soon will the government go towards probably finding out a median rate between 12 and 18%. There are other things as well. How many more items can be brought under the GST purview, and how soon can we see more items, getting taxed at a lower rate as well? All that we'll have to wait and watch to find out. Till then, thanks a lot for joining us in this edition of Editor's Take, and do stay logged on to moneycontrol.com for more news and updates. Thanks for watching.